everyone, welcome back. I'm Hayley. Thanks for joining me for another video. It's Friday Sews again. Thanks to Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room for setting up this hashtag. And I have been making a jumpsuit. It's the Dominique by Republique Du Chiffon. Did you like my French accent? I've got a GCSE. Oh yes, I have. But don't worry, you don't need a GCSE because the instructions come in English. I used a fabric from Rainbow Fabrics. The reason I chose this fabric is because I was watching a YouTuber, Karen Sews Slowly. Again, I'll link her below. And if you have not seen her channel, you need to go and watch it because she's hilarious and also really stylish. So one day she was wearing a jumpsuit made from a really similar fabric. The scale was slightly different, but the colours were the same, the print was basically the same, and it looked fantastic. And I'd had this in my stash for a while, and as soon as I saw her version, I knew it needed to be a jumpsuit. I knew I had the Dominique pattern ready to go, but was too scared to make it from a good fabric, so yeah, everything came together, and this is the result. I purchased the pattern as a PDF, and I will give you a word of warning here. The pattern pieces overlap on the PDF. So you print everything out, tile it, and then you're left with one big pattern sheet, but you will have like the bodice piece here, and then a pocket piece as well, and then maybe a facing, and they all overlap one another. I assume the intention is that you trace them off. I'm lazy. So I actually just printed it twice and cut each one out, if you know what I mean, which that works fine. It's not my favourite because where pieces overlap, if you don't trace, if you trace, it's probably fine. If you don't trace and you just cut out from the paper, where there are other pieces like facings and pockets and things, it can look like a notch. So I was getting a bit confused with like, is that a notch? Is that part of another pattern piece? So just a word of warning. However, I love the end product, so well worth fiddling with that. Sizing, according to the size chart, I should be a 40 bust, a 40 hip and a 42 waist. I had a little think, there were quite a few pattern pieces, especially because there's pockets here. And so I didn't want to blend between sizes. Also, there are darts, if you can see here. So I decided to basically fully assemble everything and then do the darts so that I could just take enough that it would fit at the waist without actually going up to my true size. And it has worked really well. I'm not the biggest fan of waist darts in trousers and pleats. Yeah, they're pleats, sorry, they're not darts. I think it's just, we're all products of the era in which we grew up, aren't we? And pleats back in the day, I know they're fashionable now, but back in my day were very unfashionable, so I've just never had a great love affair with them. That said, in 2005, when skinny jeans were invented, I was like, whoa, they're ugly. And then I didn't wear a single other style of jeans for the next 15 years. So this time next year, maybe I'll be rocking the pleated trousers. The other fitting adjustment I made on the fly was to the length. So I am not tall, I'm 5'4", but I have the legs of a really tall person stuck onto the body of a really short person, which overall makes me an average height person, but the height is not evenly distributed. So I knew I would need to shorten the bodice. Most patterns, I just fold out 4 centimeters total, and that's fine. With this being a jumpsuit, I was hesitant to lengthen it at the cutting out stage because, you know, everything's hanging off your shoulders, and if you make the bodice too short, we all know where that's going to creep and it will be uncomfortable. So I left the length as it was on the pattern, and as I assembled it on the fly, I then took length out because I knew that here there is a waist seam, and I knew that I could just alter it as I went. As I say, now I know I need to take 3 centimeters out, so I'm glad I didn't do the 4. The pattern instructions tell you you will need 2.5 meters of fabric for this pattern for all sizes. But we're sewers and we know better. How can it be the same amount of fabric for all sizes? Nope. That says the size range is quite limited, so maybe. Anyway, I had 3 meters of this fabric. I cut this out and I still had over 1 meter left. That said, it's like sport to me, rearranging pattern pieces, changing them this way, changing them that way, flipping them over, moving this here and that there, to try and be left with the biggest remnant ever possible, so that I can put that remnant in my stash and not know what to do with it for like 5 years. Anybody else? Although, I have actually made this remnant into a skirt, and it's a midi length skirt, so long story short, I don't think that for a size 40 you do need 2.5 meters, but if you don't enjoy torturing yourself and playing pattern Tetris for like an hour every time you cut something out, maybe just do what they say and get 2.5 meters. And the collar construction is lovely. I really like it. The pattern is listed on the website as a 4 out of 4 difficulty, and I agree and I disagree. So the instructions are perfectly adequate and actually quite detailed, but I don't think they always do it in the easiest way there is, which makes it more difficult than it could be, if you know what I mean. So the collar, you can see it here, it's a really nicely shaped collar, folds back on itself, and it's fully faced, and it just turns beautifully at this little turning point there. But the way they have you assemble it is to construct the collar and then get the main fabric, the collar, and then the facing, and sew all the way around the whole facing for the whole garment. So like, oh, with the left and right again. So, I'm getting worse. They make you sew all the way around the whole thing with the collar sandwiched in between the main and the facing in one step. The next time I made this, we'll come to that, I basted the collar to the main garment and then put the facing on top and sewed all the way around. So I only basted the collar from here around to there, and then I sewed the facing all the way, and that made it so much easier. There are little pocket flaps here. They're not real pockets, but I really, really like them. I think they add such a lovely detail. The buttons I just bought from eBay. They're wooden buttons, and the pattern tells you to choose between buttons and poppers. Now we're talking jumpsuit here, so you all know the problem with a jumpsuit, which is that going to the loo can be a drama. And I just thought, wow, that's a lot of buttons to be undoing in a rush and then redoing every time you need the loo. So I cheated and I did a combo. I used sew-in snaps and then just sewed buttons on top of them. I'll show you what it looks like on the inside. So sew-in snaps, they just clip back together and they're pretty easy to do on the body because you've got something to push against. And then I sewed a button to cover them up. And another little cheat is that I always sew my sew-on snaps on by machine, using the feature that allows you to sew buttons on. So I'm sure every machine is different, but on mine, you actually take the presser foot off and just use the pointy bit, technical term. and then you set the needle width and it just sews back and forth, and I just do like effectively a really narrow button and then lift the needle, move on to the next one, put it down, a button, lift the needle 4 times, and it gives you a really secure finish. They are not going anywhere. One issue I do have styling this is shoes. The length is great, it's slightly cropped. I left it just the length that it is and it's fine on me. And I have worn it a couple of times cuffed. With chunky trainers, I don't know, because the legs are pegged and quite narrow, chunky trainers, the proportions just seem off to me. It looks great with sandals, but I wouldn't wear sandals on an 18-degree day. So the best solution I've come up with is a pair of Bowden espadrilles, which I love, look great, but the background of this fabric is black and they're navy. I am sure nobody but me would ever notice. Construction disasters. You know there'll be some with me. Actually, this, for the first time making a pattern and my first time ever making a jumpsuit, was surprisingly straightforward. However, the facing did kind of stump me. Okay, so this bit here confused me. It probably was just me, but what I did first time around was to sew this to this, and then it looked all right from the outside, but then this, if I give you a side-on view, you'll see it was creeping into an uncomfortable place. So I decided that was wrong. So I've left it open. I'm not sure if it's entirely as intended, but it works fine and it lays really nice and flat. Under here, you will see there is one tiny bit that isn't overlocked. Now it's interfaced, so I don't think it will fray. And if it does, it's the facing, so it won't really matter. But I would like to work out a better way to do that in future, because leaving things not overlocked does make me a bit nervous that they're going to fray. But, you know, it's the facing. We're not going to have a fraying hole in the crotch situation, don't worry. I was trying to get through this video without using the word crotch. It was never going to work, was it? We're talking jumpsuits. So yeah, really, really happy with it, and we'll definitely make it again. Speaking of, here's one I made earlier. So this is a little bonus pattern hack. I made a little blouse from the bodice pattern pieces. At the back, as you can see, I just drew a shirt tail hem, and I really winged that. I just measured on myself where I wanted it to come to, flat pattern measured, joined the dots, and I really love this. It was just a little idea that came to me because I really like how the collar sits on me, and I liked the little pockets. I like the shoulder line where it's slightly extended. It's almost a cap sleeve really, but it's all cut on. And I had a scrap of chambray and I thought, I wonder if that will make a nice little blouse, and I was right. One thing that I should have changed from the first version to this version that I hadn't picked up on in time was the pocket placement. For me, they're just a little bit too far to the side. Next time I would bring them in probably 1.5 centimeters, I think. I've been wearing a lot more high-waisted, wide-leg trousers, and I wanted some more cropped blouses that didn't need tucking in, because I find tucking in kind of awkward and uncomfortable. I'm getting better at it as fashions are heading that way, but yeah, a nice cropped blouse I thought would be a useful addition to the wardrobe, and so far it really is. So I'm very pleased that I thought to make a little blouse from the top half of the pattern. Would I make it again? Yes. I recently bought this fabric, and it's a lightweight denim. I'm gonna hide behind it so that the camera focuses on it, not me. And I don't know, I just think that could be a really cool jumpsuit. I don't know if it's too heavy. I don't think it is. Feeling this fabric, it's not jeans denim, but I would make like a wide leg pair of like linen style trousers out of it. I wouldn't make a blouse from it, but does that mean I can't make a jumpsuit from it? Tell me what you think, because I'm really tempted, but I'm also hesitant. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about my Dominique jumpsuit and blouse. I've linked the pattern down below because it wasn't the easiest to track down online. And yeah, I hope to see you again very soon. Good to go? Too high, too low? This is super wonky, isn't it? You don't need to know this extraneous detail. Coffee break. Oh, this is awful. Still a bit up the nose. Oh my god, I'm still recording. Detail. Again. We're getting rid of that. Bye.